Today's webinar is on evolution of cyber laws, and we have advocate Akash Garg with us. Sir is a practicing advocate in Patiala's district court. Since 2019, he is serving as the head of public relations and communications at World Cybersecurity Forum, and he is also working as a legal consultant for Alpha AI, a UK-based company. He is passionate about IPR and technology laws and currently working with two prestigious organizations that deal with cyber laws, cyber securities, IPR, and artificial intelligence. It's an honor to have you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for your lovely introduction. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to the moderator for such a great introduction. So I would like to try my best to utilize these few minutes and give you insight about the cyber laws, especially in India. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I would like to start a session on evolution of cyber laws with special emphasis to India. So in this session, we will start from introduction to the cyberspace and cyber laws, and we will end the session discussing some job opportunities in the cyber domain. Okay, so my introduction is anyways given by the moderator, but I'm also a head of peer and communication for the WCSF World Cybersecurity Forum, and I'm also entrepreneur. I'm a co-founder of Law Central. I'm a legal consultant for Alpha, and I'm also a practicing advocate and district court Patiala, Punjab. So we will start that how cyber come into the being, the word cyber. So the cyber is a prefix used to describe a person or a thing. So it is a prefix that is used to describe a person or thing or idea as taken to the computer and in the information age. Taken from cyber notes, Greek word for steersman or a governor. It is first used in cybernetics. I hope my speed is not that much fast. It's all fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So taken from the cybernetics, Greek word for steersman or a governor. It was used in cybernetics, a word coined by Norbert Winger and his colleagues. So to understand the concept of cyber laws, it is very important to understand why it come into the being. What is the need of cyber laws? And to understand that we need to understand cyber crimes, cyberspace, and the group. So I will be starting with the cyberspace. Cyberspace is a wide term and it includes computers, networks, software, data storage devices such as USBs or the RAM, internet, and in electronic devices such as cell phones, ATM machines, etc. So all the crimes which take place in cyberspace are cyber crimes. These crimes happens on the internet or the computer, but has a severe potential for remarkable impacts on the life of the individual or the society. So when a cyber crime takes place, for example, there's a revenge porn. So when it takes place, it harasses the victim mentally. So it has not only whether it's happening online, but it can give you the mental pain, it can give you the financial loss, and it can impact the society as a whole. And even the cyber crimes, they are divided or they're differentiated on the various modes. For example, cyber crimes against the individual, when it comes to defamation or it comes to the cyber stalking. So these are cyber crimes which happens against an individual. Then it comes to the cyber crimes against the companies. For example, data leaks. Then it comes cyber crimes against the government. For example, cyber terrorism, cyber warfare. Then comes cyber crimes against the property. So there are 5 to 6 types of on the 5 6 agendas on which the cybercrime can be distinguished. Okay. So at the 10th UN Congress on the prevention of crime and treatment of offenders, in a workshop devoted to the issues of the crime related to the cyber network, the cyber crimes were divided in the two senses. First was the narrow one, and second is the broader one. So the thing is, it is a all game of words, how they are trying to change the narrower sense and the broader sense of the cybercrime. So firstly, any illegal behavior directed by the means of electronic operation that targets the security of a computer system and data processed by them. So in these cases, we can relate, for example, cyber trespass, getting unauthorized access to the computer, hacking. So all these are by the means of electronic operation that targets a computer, like hacking. But in the second one, it is like stealing some data without access of the computer, for like a physical through the USBs and other modes in the broader sense, or stealing the computer. Even if you steal the computer hardware, it is also a type of cybercrime. So any illegal behavior committed by or means of or in relation to a computer network or system, including such crime as illegal possession, offering, or disturbing information by the means of cyber networks or crimes, cyber computer system or network, right? So as far as of now, we have discussed the cyber space and cyber crimes. Now we will move our shift to the cyber laws. Okay. So cybercrime, technically, when we speak about the cyber laws, it is a term that encapsulates the legal issues related to the use of communicative, transactional, and distributive aspects of the network information devices and the technology. So this is the definition which you all can see on my screen. I hope the screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but legally, we can say that cyber law means penalization for violation of activities approved by the government, which are enforced over the territory or they're not properly obeyed by a person residing in that territory. So, cyber laws, it not revolve around the cyber law is basically against cyber crimes, intellectual property, data protection and privacy, and electronic and digital signatures. So, as we know, as we have already known, that cyber crimes are unlawful acts where the internet, mobile, or computer is either used as a tool or a target or a both. So, secondly, comes to the electronic signature. So, electronic signatures are used to authenticate electronic records, and digital signature is also a type of electronic record. But there are some legal requirements to satisfy the electronic signature. First is message authentication. Second is signature authentication. And third is message integrity. Then comes to the intellectual property. Intellectual property refers to the creation of a human mind. Example, a story, a painting, a design, right? And the facets of the IP that relate to cyberspace are covered by the cyber laws. And then lastly comes to the data protection and privacy laws, which aims to achieve a fair balance between the privacy rights of an individual and the interest of the bank controllers, example, banks, hospital, email service providers. So they don't share your personal details with a third company or organization. And so you have to sacrifice your personal data and your privacy as well. So why there's a need of cyber laws? As most of you have known that the cyber crime since the COVID has started, it are on the rise. So there is a high need of cyber laws. The thing, cyber crime started from the 1800s, and all of us, we are moving towards the technical era. There is a high transaction between laws and the technology, which give emergence to the need of cyber laws. Firstly, almost all transactions are in the DMAT form. So basically, DMAT form means dematerialized account form. It is an account to hold financial securities in electronic form. So most of you have been trading. We know what is trading. We have been aware of so many apps for the trading like Binance, WazirX. So we all know very well about the cryptos and the trading. So when we trade, it is used to hold shares and securities. So when things are going online and there's a trend of the e-commerce, it gives the emergence of cyber laws. So almost all the companies extensively depend upon their computer networks and keep their valuable data in electronic form. Government, government forms including income tax, income tax returns, company law forms are now in electronic form. Consumers are increasingly using credit cards for the shopping. Mostly people are using emails, cell phones, and SMSs for the communication. Even in the non-cybercrime cases, so there's a case, Mukul versus State of Punjab. So in this case, what happened? There was a girl from Patiala only. So she was forced by one of her classmates to give him an iPhone. Otherwise, her nudes will be leaked. So she was so much harassed that she jumped into the river. So in that case, there's a judgment of the Punjab and Haryana High Court. You can read that. So it depends. It calls for the electronic evidences, and in that case as well, WhatsApp and other evidences collected from the phone helped in solving the case. So also in the non-cyber crime cases, important evidence is found in computers, cell phones. Example, in the case of divorce, murder, kidnapping, tax evasion, organized crime, terrorist operation. So how many of you know the parliament attacks? So in the parliament attacks as well, the laptops of the terrorists helped in collecting information, like the sticker of the stickers they were made using the computers. So all of the evidence is helping us in collecting the terrorist, and even the forced currency, etc. Then cybercrime cases such as online banking frauds, online share trading frauds, source code theft, credit card fraud, tax evasion, virus attacks, cyber sabotage, phishing attacks, email hijacking, denial of service, hacking, pornography, etc. are becoming very common. Lastly, digital signatures and e-contracts are fast replacing conventional methods of transacting businesses. So this is the data of the cyber legislations, like how many countries have cyber legislations right now. So only 80%, if you can see the blue part, so these countries have cyber legislations as of now. And only 5% of countries, they have draft legislations, like their legislations are still in the process of being passed, whereas 13% of countries have no legislation, and 2% of countries, they don't have any data about cyber, what is happening in the cyber, and that 2% is Russia. So the source of this is UNCTAD, right? Yeah. So it also states that 45% of Asian Pacific nations, they don't have any cyber legislations. Even in the 2021, when we say it's a modern era, it's a tech era, it's IT era, we don't know what we say. But the thing is, when we call ourselves very modern, we don't have any legislation. That is 13% of the countries, they don't have any legislation in regard to the cyber laws. There are 400% of hike in cyber laws, cyber crimes, there is no cyber laws in some countries, which may make them more vulnerable to cyber crimes. Now there are also threats which we face, even we have a cyber law, but still we face some vulnerabilities. Or see the situation of the countries where there are no legislations as of now. So now we are moving towards evolution of cyber crimes. So before moving to cyber crime, evolution of cyber crimes in India, I will like to tell a brief history, like how cyber laws. Wait, I'm so sorry. I have written cyber crimes. It is cyber laws. Evolution of cyber laws, right? So before moving to the evolution of cyber laws, we will be starting how first cyber legislation come into the being. So first legislation was Federal Computer System Protection Act in the USA. It is also known as Ribikoff Bill. It was presented by the Senator Ribikoff, but it never became an law. It was just a bill to protect us from the cyber crime. So it was a very good bill, and the words of the Sir Ribikoff, they're still reminded by the people when he was presenting the bill. Then comes the Interpol. It is an organization which primarily concentrates on three types of international crimes: terrorism, cyber crimes, and organized crimes. So it also deals with laws against humanity and laws against like laws like for cyber pornography and human trafficking, etc. Then comes the first legislation in the UK, that is Computer Fraud and Abuse Act of 1986. So it was passed in the UK. It was basically regarding the unauthorized access to the computers. But it didn't define what is non-authorized access, but it was dealing with the unauthorized access. So lastly comes the unilateral model on electronic commerce. As the world was shifting to the e-commerce, so the UNICITRAL passed a model law on electronic commerce. So there was a case in the Texas Court of Appeal, which was Khoury versus uh, Tollinson. So what happened in this case, that the contract was agreed between two the parties through the emails, but it don't have any kind of signatures. It had no signatures, but in the end of the mail we write regards. Like if I'm writing a mail to anyone, I will write regards Akash Garg. So that was considered that yes, this mail was sent by this person and contract was valid by considering Article 7 of the modern law. Now we come to the Indian laws. So as all of us know that cyber laws in India started from the IT Act, IT Act of 2000. In May 2000, both the houses of the Indian Parliament passed the IT bill, and the bill received the assent of the President in August 2000 and came to be known as IT Act 2000. So this act has some provisions which helped us to grow commercially as well as technically. So it includes permission to enter electronic contracts and making them legally valid. Before that, electronic contracts was not valid at all. Second is it also authorized digital signatures. Thirdly, security measures for e-commerce as well, and it also made a court, Cyber Regulatory Appellate Tribunal, and amendments in IPC, Evidence Act, and others was done. It includes SEBI, RBI as well. So the thing is, we all read about the electronic evidences in the Evidence Act. All of this was possible because IT Act was passed, and then so many changes was done in the prevailing laws to meet the requirement. Third is IT Amendment Act 2008. So the IT Amendment Act 2008, wait a moment. Okay. So IT Amendment Act was passed by the Indian Parliament in October 2008. It came into force a year later. The act is administered by the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team, that is CERT-IN. So there were so many mistakes because the thing is, no laws can never be static because the society is never static. So laws are made to meet the changing requirements of the society. So when IT Act 2000 was made, we made so many, there were so many areas, or there was so much vacuum which the act was not able to meet. So to cover up that, Amendment Act came. It includes cyber cafes. So cyber cafes were added as intermediaries. Before that, they were not intermediary and they don't have any liability. Second, the focus was given on the child pornography and the cyber terrorism, because after the parliamentary attacks of 24/11, the cyber it was come to we made a more stricter provision regarding cyber terrorism, and section 66A was also included among others. So you know that this section was revoked under by the Shreya Singhal versus Union of India, and we will discuss this judgment later on. So next comes National Policy on IT 2012. So the vision of this policy is to strengthen and enhance India's position as a global IT hub and to use IT and cyberspace as an engine for rapid growth and inclusion for the substantial growth. So to make one person, so the aim of this policy was to make every person in a home illiterate, not illiterate, it's illiterate, electronically literate. They want at least one person should know the use of technology and the computers. So the second is to grow IT and ITES by 300 billion and 200 billion by 2020. So that is a business of increase of 500 billion business by 2020. I don't have any update whether the that national policy of IT has able to achieve it, but this was a goal settled for the national policy on IT. So then comes the personal data protection bill. So as most of you know, it is still a bill, and the discussions of same is going on, and the bill is under the committee constituted by the Meenakshi Likhi for the reviewing. So this bill provides the data principal with certain rights with respect of their personal data, including confirmation on whether the personal data has been processed, seeking correction, completion, and erasure of their data, seeking transfer of data to other fiduciaries, and restraining continuing disclosure of the personal data. So this bill gives us certain rights. For example, right to erasure, right to be forgotten, and whether our data can be shared with others or not, if it is no longer necessary or the consent is withdrawn. So we see that when we, if for example, you register at some website, then you will start getting mails from not only that site, but its subsidiary companies, its sister companies. So under these laws, the companies cannot share our data without our permission. For example, all of you are using the SIM of the Airtel. They know your father's name, your date of birth, your Aadhaar number, and everything. You switch to a Jio SIM. Now, when you switch to a Jio SIM, the company Airtel, they will still retain your data. They will still call you, please, sir, use the continuing at the phone. We are doing this. Now, when this bill will be passed, you can tell the Airtel that they have to erase all of your data, which is saved in the system. So it gives you access to your own data, which you have lost it, which we are getting lost with a period of time. So then comes the cryptocurrency and the regulation of official digital currency bill. So this bill is under discussion. The government has given indication that they may pass a bill, and the new bill recognizes the gray area of the cryptocurrency laws and proposes to ban all the private cryptocurrencies in their and however, it is still a gray area pertaining to all kinds of cryptos will fall under the purview of private cryptocurrency. And if all the traders and individuals they will still invest on the crypto, it will be unmonitored, it will be unauthorized, and it will be in the open market. And if it can be also be illegal under the laws, and you can be arrested for the same if you're still trading in the crypto laws, if you're still trading in the cryptocurrency. So now I will be discussing some case laws in the cyber laws. So first is case one, that is SonySambandh.com case of 2013. So this was a case, actually SonySambandh.com, Sony came with a special website, SonySambandh.com, so that the people who are settled abroad, they can send gifts to their known ones in India. But and it was going good. And in May 2002, someone lodged onto the website under the identity of Barbara Kampa and ordered a Sony color television set and a cordless headphone. She gave her credit card number for the payment and requested the products to be delivered to the Arif Azam in Noida. The product was delivered in this case, and the photo was also sent that the product is sent to the Arif Azim in Noida. But it came to know that Arif Azam used to work in a call center, and he obtained the details of Barbara Kampa deceivingly, and then he ordered something on her credit card just to gain a profit. So he was arrested, but this was the first case of its own kind. So the Delhi High Court, they used some liberal approach to the same while deciding the case. So this was the first case in India regarding the cyber laws. So second case was SMC Finematics India Private Limited versus Jogesh Khwatra. So this was the first case of defamation, cyber defamation in India. So Jogesh Khwatra, being an employee of the plaintiff company, started sending derogatory defamatory, or obscene, vulgar, and filthy and abusive mails to his employees, as also to the different subsidiaries of the state company all over the world, with the aim to defame the company and its managing director, Mr. R.K. Malhotra. So when Mr. R.K. Malhotra came to know about the same, he filed a complaint against Jogesh Khatra, and again the Delhi High Court, because this was the first time the case such case came into the knowledge. So they used a liberal approach, but still Khatra, he was held liable, and I think so injunction was passed that he cannot send such mails, and he cannot do the cyber defamation against any of the employers or the company. So injunction was passed in this suit. So then comes the case of Shreya Singhal versus Union of India. So this is the most common case of the cyber laws. So in this case, two women were arrested under the section 66A of the IT Act after they posted allegedly offensive and objectable comments on the Facebook concerning the complete shutdown of Mumbai after the demise of a political leader, that is Mr. Thackeray. So the thing is, when he died, so there was a whole chaos on the streets of Bombay. And in the today's time, when something happens politically, we all went to the social media, Twitter, Instagram, to show our aggression that where government is going wrong, where it's going right. So, but at that time, it was because as I mentioned earlier, after parliamentary tax, any of the comments against the government, it was covered under Section 66A. So when it was the laws were passed, the situation changed, and two women were arrested. Then Shreya Singhal, she was a daughter of she was a daughter of an advocate, lady advocate, and when she saw these things happening, she filed a PIL to against Section 66A, as it violates our right, our freedom to speech. And the court has considered the same, and um, they have struck down this provision, Section 66A of IT Act. And there was more provision which was challenged. I think so. I'm not sure. It's 69, I believe. And there was an act of 2009, but they were considered valid by the court. Then there was case number 4, that is Nescom versus Ajay Sood and others. So in this case, Ajay Sood was running a company, and they were doing headhunting, as well as they were giving the recruitment opportunities. So to find them, what they were doing, they were sending the mails on the name of the Nescom. So when Nescom came to know about this, they filed a complaint against the Ajay Sood, and the Delhi High Court stated that even though there is no specific legislation in India to penalize phishing, so this crimes comes under the phishing, when you're sending mails just to obtain data of the legit person from the legit person by mispresenting yourself as a legit person. So it held phishing to be an illegal act by defining it under Indian law as misrepresenting made in course of trade, leading into confusion as to source and origin of the email, causing immense harm not only to the customers but even to the person whose name, identity, or password is misused. And not only this, it has also said that Ajay Sood and others, they are also violating the trademarks of the Nescom, and heavy penalty was charged upon them. For to the Ajay Sood, it was a very handsome penalty which they had to pay the Nescom for the violation of for the phishing as well as violation of the trademarks. So the last case is Ajay Bajaj versus State and City of Delhi. So Ajay Bajaj was the CEO of Bazi.com, and he was arrested under Section 67 of the IT Act for broadcasting of cyber pornography. Someone else had sold the copies of the CD containing the pornographic material through the Bazi.com website. But the thing is, Avnish Bajaj was not at all, he was not at all intermediary. He was not doing anything. He was not even the knowledge that something is going on his website, but he has earned profit. Because when you use Google Ads, or there's some things when you use to monetize your website, So one of them was selling pornography, which was visible on the buzz.com. So he was arrested, but the court held that he is not liable and he was set free on the bail. So that's it. Now I will be telling the scope in cyber laws, like why you guys should study cyber laws and why not only to gain knowledge, but also the terms of opportunities. So you can, what are the job roles when you you complete your law and you have your proper practice, you can act as a cyber lawyer, a simple like a lawyer and cyber assistant or a legal advisor. You can start an independent practice and who hired these are law firms, corporate office, public departments and IT departments. So public departments in all the departments nowadays, all of them they have their own IT cell in the public department. So all these of hire the cyber advocates or the lawyers. Okay, so many areas in cyber laws in India are still undiscovered or undeciphered, making it a gray area of law. We are still not secure against present vulnerabilities. Therefore, planning for a future is out of a question. So I will also be suggesting some of the preventive measures which you guys can utilize. For example, not to send pictures, to avoid disclosing personal information to others, then updating antivirus, and not to use public Wi-Fi. And I hope every one of you is also aware about going debate about the VPN, like whether we should use VPN or not. So the thing is, you should not use public Wi-Fi and all the things. So thank you for all the time. The lecture was really short and crisp, but the cyber law is a very deep area. If I go into even one part of this, you have to stick here for 2 hours at least. Even for the evolution, if I go into the only evolution, if I explain IT Act, amendment, so it will take a whole time. So I prepared a gist of everything. So you can just have an idea or a brief and you can start reading on your own. So thank you. If you have any doubts, you can just mail me at akash.garg@worldcybersecurities.com, and you can also contact me at 8847077236. Thank you for your time and patience.
Sir, there are a couple of questions, so can we go ahead with them?
So I would like to firstly interact with the audience. I hope the organizers they have access to mics or not.
Sir, there are some questions, so should we go ahead with them?
No, I'm saying can we have 2 to 3 minutes after that we can move to them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was just, do they have access to mics and their chat boxes?
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to know, do you think that you have committed any kind of cybercrime or you have helped others in committing cyber crimes? So I would like to know your answers in yes and no. Okay, I think so they don't want to interact. Okay. The thing is there sometimes when we share, so I have we share our certificates on social medias. So the signatures of the speakers or of the some of the persons from when they can also be stolen and it contributes to cyber crimes. We don't know, sometimes we are a medium of a cyber crimes. We are not even think of that. Sometimes we share so many things on social media which can the thing is I even personally witnessed a case in the court when a person his wife ran away from home with some guy, so he just posted randomly on the WhatsApp status, don't trust this woman, my wife, her name Mrs. this and this, she has ran away with her boyfriend, then she has to face a cyber awareness. Can you suggest some books for cyber crimes and cyber laws? Yeah, sure. I can disclose you someone. There is one by Pavan Dugal. Then there are a few courses which you can go on cyber laws and cyber crimes. And there is one book by Mr. Vijendra Kumar. That book is really very good on cyber laws and cyber crimes. One book is by Dr. Jyoti Ratan. Even her book is very good. So moderator, we can move to the questions, I guess so.
Okay, sir. So the first question that we have is, what is the difference between information technology and computer science?
Okay. The thing is, basically, I'm not from the technical field, but I will try my best to answer this question. So the thing is, as you know, that computer science, it revolves with the two words, that is science plus computer. So it is a knowledge of computer. It includes designing of computer and usage of the computer, as well as solving problems associated with the same. But when we come to the word information technology, it means practical application of the computer science in the business industries. So these terms, people use it very much with a coexistence, like sometimes they use IT, sometimes they use computer science. But in reality, these two terms are not at all same. They're very different from each other.
Okay, sir. So the next question that we have is, what are your views on the Pegasus malware?
Okay, so Pegasus malware, the thing is, it was developed by, I think so, Israel. And the thing is, when it is currently, the whole debate is going on in the India regarding its usage, like how there are also the allegations that the government is using it. But the thing is, it was discovered in the way back in 2016, and not any of the solutions have been discovered. The thing is, firstly, when there was a person, when he was trying to use malware on the iPhone, the spyware came into the knowledge of the tech geeks. But still no solution was provided. Then when it now the hundred or millions of Indians are under the threat that maybe their phone was cloned or their phone was used, now we are making it a havoc that how it is happening. But it have been 5 years and no solution was still provided to us. So I think so our ignorance led to this much expansion of this malware.
Yes, sir. So the next question that we have is, when did the world's first cybercrime happen?
Okay, so the thing is, when you try to read your books or when you go to the internet, so you can find out that the first cybercrime happened in 1834, and it was for the usage of the telegram. When robbers, they used the telegram to steal some data. But the thing is, I believe this was not a cybercrime. This was a kind of a virtual crime or electronic crime. I don't know what to say, but I can state that when you see the things, it is not a cyber crime for sure. And even then, after that, there was a crime which was included in the cyber crimes, like when the Graham Bell invented the telephone. So there was two boys who was using to cut the calls or disconnect the calls to different people. So all of these are included in the cyber crimes. But if you will try to see, these are not cyber crimes according if we see the literal meaning of the cyber.
Yes, sir. So, sir, we have one final question that we got, and
Okay.
it is, can you state some examples which specifically show how IPR is related to cyber laws?
Yeah, the thing is, you can see software piracy, then IPR infringement in the virtual world for whether it of the whether it's of the copyrights, trademarks, or patents. Then there are also people who steal computer source codes or design or service mark violation as well. So these are few examples which happens in the modern days. Like IPR and cyber laws are always go hand in hand. Okay, so Mahindra, actually, the thing is, I have seen the courses of the World Cyber Security Forum. So these courses are very good. So they provide a brief knowledge upon cyber laws as well as cyber crimes. recently, few days back, when we had a free event on the World Cybersecurity Forum, where we had a free discussion for 3 days on cyber laws as well as cyber crimes. IPC law and cyber law. IPC laws is like all the criminal activities which are happening in the happening. But cyber is law is specific for the crimes happening in the cyber or the virtual world. So IPC and cyber, it is very easy to distinguish them. That IPC is physical laws or which is happening in the real life, whereas cyber laws which are happening in the virtual life. Like in IPC, we have defamation. In the cyber, we have cyber defamation. If you murder someone, it is over the IPC. I hope my answer is my question is answered.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they affect the mind and the body. So can you suggest some good cyber law course from university? Actually, the thing is, I just came across National Forensic Sciences University. These are also providing the post graduation diploma, and they're also giving LLMs for the 1 year. And that it is a national level university, National Forensic Sciences University of Gujarat. They also have 2 to 3 departments. So if you want to do LLM in the cyber, or you do want to do any kind of course, so you can refer to the National Forensic Sciences University. Can you please name? Okay. So Garvit, actually, I will suggest you more even. The thing is because right now, even I can just right now I can just mention 2 to 3, but mail it to me and I will just give you a hamper of books. Like I will send you name of 7 to 8 books. 2, 3 are by Vijendra Kumar, then by Mr. Pavan Dugal, then Jyoti Ratan. So these are 2 to 3 books which I remember as of now.
Yes, sir. So, sir, if there are no more questions, I think we can conclude the webinar and move towards the vote of thanks.
Yeah, sure, you can.
So, on behalf of Being Logical and JLSR Journal, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to Akash Garg, sir, for joining us and taking out time from his busy schedule. The session was extremely enriching and informative. Further, we also thank all the participants for their active participation. Once again, thank you, sir.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining me, and thank you JSLR and Being Logical for inviting me. And the thing is, I will like to now, the thing is we are on the ending, so I will just say it one quote, a quote by Mahatma Gandhi, like being the change you want to see in the world. If you want to stay, if you want to stay safe in the cyber world, so start creating awareness about cyber. If you are, I don't know how much informative was my session. I tried my best, but I don't know how much informative it was. So if you, even if you get to know 1%, no, so just try to share it with others so they can even protect themselves. So thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.